Okay. It's okay. It's not okay. What was that? So the Lions lose 27-24 to the Minnesota Vikings at home, looking incredibly sloppy and horrible, and quite frankly, like the second best team the entire game. That was horrible, man. What was that? I will be the first to stand up and say that I fully expected the Lions to win this game, not by the 9.5 points they were favored by, but the Lions have traditionally done very well against the Vikings in the past couple of years, and I figured that, especially at home, coming out of a bye week, the Lions were mostly healthy coming into this game, that they would be able to take care of business and walk away with a win. Instead, the Vikings come out, play absolutely spectacularly on defense, and do plenty offensively, take everything the Lions were giving them and a little bit more, and they do enough to win. And special teams, too, randomly were a super big factor in this game. The Vikings do everything they need to on offense and special teams, and their defense, I know they gave up 24 points, but I don't think we have to kid ourselves. The Lions' offense was completely outclassed in this one in multiple facets that we're going to talk about. This was a horrible performance by the Lions. I'll give credit to the Minnesota Vikings. Like, good job. You guys played very well. You deserve to win this game. And I know Vikings fans are probably licking their chops, getting ready to, well, just destroy Lions fans, because as I mentioned in my preview, Lions and Vikings fans have about as toxic a relationship as you can have in football fandom. So this is going to be a horrible, horrible week. The only saving grace for the Lions, is that the Packers also lost to the Carolina Panthers, so at least you don't lose any ground in the NFC North race. But man, what a missed opportunity, and just inexcusably bad by the Lions. This was very reminiscent of a Week 14 game in 2023 against the Chicago Bears, where, again, the Bears that season, not a good team, but the Lions just had so much trouble dealing with them and were unable to pull out a win. They probably should have lost both games to the Bears that year. This was, So we're going to talk about all this. This is going to be as close to a one-taker as possible. I'm going to go on several tangents throughout this video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Zach Payne. I'm a Lions fan. I make Lions content here on YouTube. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss any content. I was live for this game, so if you want to go watch me melt down in real time, you can go back and watch that live stream as well. Okay, let's get into it. Where to begin? Usually with these recaps, I like to talk about the game in chronological order and talk about how the game transpired. I'm not doing that here. We got to talk about just the end result and the overarching themes, because in all facets, this was truly a team effort by the Lions to lose this game in every facet. But we are going to start with the number 1 and 2 culprits, because they go hand in hand. The offensive line and Jared Goff, that seemingly had no idea what to do about this Vikings front, and it all starts with the offensive line. The Lions, traditionally in the Dan Campbell era, and this season especially, have been a team that is predicated on running the football to set up the play-action pass so that they keep the defense guessing. They get into trouble when they get backed up, they get behind schedule, and the defense on the other side is able to pin their ears back and just rush the passer. We know the Vikings are a super aggressive defense. They blitz more than pretty much everyone. I'm pretty sure they blitz more than anyone in the NFL. I'm pretty sure they're the only team over 40% blitz rate. And you know that the Vikings want to get you into third and long situations so that they can unleash these blitz packages. Now, I have been one to stand up and say that I think the Brian Flores defense can be a little gimmicky at times with how its blitz fronts, like, it usually preys on young quarterbacks, and usually veteran QBs are able to sniff it out a little bit better. That being said, one of the biggest losses for the Lions this offseason was Frank Ragnow, not Ben Johnson, Frank Ragnow. And Ragnow was so good at helping the Lions diagnose these blitzes and communicate to the offensive line what to look out for. And oh my Lord, did I miss Ragnow so much in this game. The two young guards, Christian Mahogany and Tate Ratledge, especially Tate Ratledge, had such a difficult time in this game. Ratledge was struggling so much with passing. So what the Vikings would do, they knew that there was inexperienced guards on the interior, and they know the Lions have good tackles. So what they were trying to do is have a lot of their blitzes be featured in the middle of the defense. They had a lot of these linebackers crossing over each other, whether it was Ivan Pace, whether it was Cashman, whether it was Wilson, like just kind of crossing over in the middle. And then they would have their interior guys like Jonathan Allen or Redmond. Hold on, I have the name up here. Yeah, Jalen Redmond, where they would start at 3 technique and then they would rush and then bend to the outside so that someone could do a stunt in the middle, whether it was an edge guy, whether it was a linebacker. And Tate Ratledge had no answer for it all day. He was getting super confused with all the looks the Vikings were throwing at him. There was multiple plays where he would try to block Jonathan Allen and he would, or like Allen would take him to the edge because Allen's just trying to clear space, which is exactly what he accomplished. And then you end up with Ratledge and Penei Sewell double teaming a 3 technique while a linebacker comes in unblocked up the middle. It was just completely horrible. The edge guys also did a pretty good job. Sewell was fine in pass pro, but Decker got beat a number of times. Christian Mahogany got beat a number of times. Jonathan Grenard was doing a fantastic job on the stunts. Van Ginkel was doing a great job sniffing out the numerous screens the Lions tried to throw at him. And the Vikings as a whole did a great job stopping the run, allowing them to get into these passing situations where they could use these blitz packages, confuse the young guards, and they could get to Jared Goff and force some incompletions. That brings us to Jared Goff, who straight up did not trust his pass protection in this one. After the first quarter, when they got to him a couple times, they got him on the ground, they were hitting him, they were getting him under pressure. It was very clear that Jared Goff was not comfortable in the pocket. And we know he struggles with interior pressure, but traditionally he has been very good against the blitz. And that's usually because he's so good at being able to anticipate what's going to be open for him so that if the blitz is going to get home in 2 seconds, he can say, okay, this guy's going to be open in 2 seconds. I'll just throw it to him. The Vikings were doing a good job pressing the Lions receivers and making sure that they were not getting any easy yards or getting any easy looks, and Goff just was panicking back there. There's no other way to say it. He was panicking. This was most evident in the third quarter when the Lions were trying to get back in this game, and the protection was actually holding up to start the third quarter, but Goff was still being frantic in the pocket, and he was immediately looking to his checkdowns to Montgomery. He was missing open and easy throws underneath. He had at least one miss to Khalif Raymond, at least one miss to Jameson Williams. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a drop in there as well. The Lions just, like, the offense was out of sync, and it's because Goff's internal clock was sped up. His processing was sped up because in his mind, he was thinking, okay, if I don't get this ball out right away, I'm going to get hit. So it was one read, check down, one read, check down. He didn't feel comfortable standing in the pocket until the end of the game when the Vikings stopped blitzing as much and they were just content to sit back. And Goff, as a result, had a truly poor game for his standards. He's a very good quarterback when he's protected. When he's not, this is the kind of thing that can happen. I know his stats end up looking okay, finishing 25 of 37 for 284 with 2 touchdowns, but sacked 5 times for 44 yards. You can't have it. And this Lions offense, as a result, that wasn't even the biggest sin. The biggest sin is the running game. 20 carries for 65 yards, averaging just 3.3 a carry. It was absolutely horrible. The Lions, again, when they play behind schedule, they aren't good, straight up. The offense has to be running the ball effectively to open up the pass over the middle, and they weren't able to do that in this game, and that allowed the Vikings to just tee off on Goff. I wouldn't be surprised if they had like 20 pressures in this game. It was just insane, the frequency that they were getting to him. Yeah, man. Another problem for the Lions has been 3rd and longs this season. They finally converted a 3rd and 10 or longer. Like, they were 0 for 22 on those situations this season. Jameson Williams helps them pick up a first down in those situations finally. Jameson Williams ends up having a decent day, 4 for 66 in the touchdown at the end. He wasn't involved until the 4th quarter, but at least he was involved a little bit. But Sam Laporta had a nice game, like 6 for 97 and 1, but 3 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown came on the opening drive, and so he had 3 for 31 aside from that. Amon-Ra ends up with a nice day, 9 for 97, but this is just, for as decent as the stats look, if you watch the game, you know that the offense was just completely anemic in this one, and they didn't do enough to win. Credit the Minnesota Vikings. It's the first time the Lions have failed to score 30 points against the Brian Flores defense. Yeah, and this feels similar. This feels like the inverse of the Ravens game where the Lions scored or they allowed like 30 points in that game, but you look at them and be like, "Wow, you did a really good job against Lamar. You sacked him 7 times and the one of the touchdowns was at the end, so you don't really care." For the Vikings, you can't look at this game as anything else than a resounding success for the defense. They were fantastic in this one. Blake Cashman was everywhere. He had 14 tackles, including a TFL. Javon Hargrave was in on a lot of plays, but Eric Wilson, the linebacker, was the big one. He was doing a great job at beating the running backs when he was blitzing, and he had a couple of sacks in this one. Jalen Redmond had a nice game, but the Vikings as a whole, their entire defensive front deserves a ton of credit. They were fantastic. Switching over to the Vikings offense and the Lions defense, this was again frustrating, but in a different way because obviously with JJ McCarthy in there, it's his 3rd career start. He's coming back from injury. You don't know what to expect. He was fine. Honestly, like I think like Vikings fans, I don't know what your expectations for JJ were. I was expecting the Lions to do a better job against him, honestly. He wasn't good. He was perfectly fine and he did enough to win. He had a couple of nice throws, couple of missed throws as well. We have to be fair. He was 14 for 25 in this game with 2 touchdowns, passing and an interception. He also added one on the ground on a play where Alex Anzalone just inexplicably took a horrible angle when the Lions ran a stunt off the edge, which allowed McCarthy to break contain, and then Anzalone in open field just couldn't make a tackle, and McCarthy got an easy touchdown there. The first touchdown to Justin Jefferson, that was just a great catch by Jefferson, the one hand in the end zone. Fantastic by him. The second touchdown, TJ Hawkinson was just left alone. That was just way too easy for the Vikings. And then there was a couple of throws to like Aaron Jones had way too many free yards. He had 9 for 78 on the ground. He also had a 2 for 20 through the air. He got hurt and banged up throughout this game, so he wasn't featured in the second half. But when he was in the game, he was an absolute menace, and the Lions could not handle him. And the thing with JJ is, he made the throws he had to, like the throw to Jefferson for the touchdown, the throw to Naylor at the end to win the game, the throw to Addison to set them up in 1st and goal. He did perfectly fine. But there were a couple of throws, like there was one where he broke out of the pocket and he had Jefferson. No one was within 5 yards of him, and he just put way too much heat on it, missed him high. There was another play where he had the ability to scramble for 7, 8, or 8 yards, and he tried to make a throw downfield. It was contested, and he threw it too high anyways. He does have a little bit of a problem putting too much heat on some of these passes and throwing them a little bit too high, but it's a lot easier to swallow those kind of critiques in a win, and a big win against a good team at that. So I think for McCarthy, he is in a really good position to succeed. Kevin O'Connell's a fantastic play caller, and he will get him in good positions to hit open receivers. Justin Jefferson's the best receiver in the league, so having him at your disposal is always going to help. Jordan Addison's a very good receiver. TJ Hawkinson's a very capable tight end, and Aaron Jones just keeps turning back the clock because he looks pretty good this season when he's been on the field. So for the Lions defense, the edge contain has been a problem, but setting the edge in the run game has been a problem. And coming out of the bye, I was hoping to see improvement. Hutchinson, even though he got a sack in this game, he still had a couple of plays where he just broke contain and didn't set the edge properly. There was like that jet sweep on a 2nd and 15 where he just crashes too far inside. Multiple runs, he crashes too far inside. That he is good at setting the edge when he has intention to, but he's just been getting caught being too aggressive this season. Again, he gets the sack, is what it is. I should also mention that this is an offensive issue as well. The Lions took way too many penalties in this game. They had 10 penalties for like 70 yards or something. Some of them were questionable. There was the unnecessary roughness on Hutchinson for the attempted trip. I understand he stuck his leg out. The attempt of a foul, I don't think constitutes an unnecessary roughness. You can debate that one. The one you can't debate, though, is Jack Campbell got a roughing the passer for a bodyweight tackle where he also tried to land himself on the ground to make sure he didn't land fully on JJ. He doesn't hit him in the head. It's just a hit in the chest. That was a bad call. Did not change the outcome of the game, but like those are the 2 penalties I'll excuse the Lions on. There was a illegal contact on a 3rd and long that cost the Lions a stop. There were multiple false starts, way too many false starts in this game for my liking, and the Lions were just very sloppy in that regard as well. But yeah, defensively, I mean, Derek Barnes had a sack. Jack Campbell, I'll give flowers to Jack Campbell. He was outstanding. He had another sack in this one where he bulldozed Jordan Mason and then forced JJ to do a somersault, which was funny to watch. But He was fantastic. Jack Campbell seems like he's on an all-pro trajectory, and he's going to be due for a big extension in the offseason. Aside from that, though, Terrion Arnold, I got to give flowers to Terrion Arnold because he came back in this one. He looked pretty good. There was one catch he allowed where he was in a zone coverage and he didn't get his hips flipped around in time, whatever. He did get his first career interception on an incredible hustle play where the throw was like maybe a half step behind. I believe it was Naylor. He gets sort of one hand on it. It was very similar to the Arthur Mollett interception against K. Dotton a couple of weeks ago against the Bucks, nearly identical, where the receiver sort of has a hand and pinning the ball to his waist, but then Terrion just comes in and rips it away from him. His first career interception. Good for Terrion Arnold. Happy to have him back, and hopefully that will get people off his back. He was far from the problem in this game. Amik Robertson did okay against Justin Jefferson. Jefferson was fine in this one, 6 for 47 in the incredible touchdown. For as much as Jefferson is a Lions killer, that is an acceptable game. The offense, it was the rush defense that was the problem. The Vikings also had a number of good fields to work with, but they just did enough offensively to win, and there was way too many easy yards that the Lions defense has to clean up on. And then the special teams, I didn't expect this to be such a big problem because the Lions special teams had been trending in the right direction. And admittedly, I did not know who this guy was coming into this game. Miles Price was spectacular as a returner, averaged 32 yards per return. He had a long of 61. He also had a kick return touchdown called back due to a holding. Now, yes, it was a holding. The holding was what springed him to go on that long run. However, Price was dangerous every time he returned the ball. I was terrified every time he was back there. He was a factor, but obviously the turning point in the game, or I guess maybe not turning point, but what ended up sealing the win for the Vikings is in the last moments of the fourth quarter with time winding down. It was about 5 minutes to go, I believe. Jake Bates lines up for a field goal. It gets blocked and returned deep into Lions territory to about the 26-yard line. So the Lions lose by 3. That field goal takes 3 points off the board with the block, and then it sets the Vikings up just outside the red zone. They would add a field goal on that drive. So that's a 6-point swing right there. And that wound up being the difference in this one, where the Lions could have won by 3. Instead, they lose by 3 because of that crucial block. It was just, it's unfortunate, man. And it's obviously more than that one play. The Vikings did plenty on defense to warrant winning this game, even though the Lions scored 24 points, as I said. It was just way too sloppy of a game for the Lions. The Vikings were giving them fits all day, and suddenly that game on Christmas, even like the Vikings could go on a 5-game losing streak. I'm still going to be scared of that defense on Christmas because without Frank Ragnow here, it's clear that this Lions offensive line does not have the same level of communication that they used to. And the Vikings, with all of the kind of confusion they cause at the line of scrimmage, not having as good a communication up front is going to be very significant. And I'm definitely going to go in with both eyes open to that Christmas Day game. So, yeah. The last thing I'll mention is there was a significant injury on the offensive line. 4 out of the 5 offensive linemen left the game at various points. Penei Sewell was dealing with a shoulder injury as well as he got poked in the eye. Taylor Decker was dealing with a knee injury. He did manage to come back. Tate Ratledge had a shoulder injury. He managed to come back. But then Christian Mahogany, on a play where he's stumbling, has his lower left leg crash into the leg of a Vikings defender, and his ankle kind of whips around. It looked very similar to Aiden Hutchinson's injury last year, where his leg just collides with another and it whips around. There was not an air cast on his leg, but he was carted off, not putting any weight on it. I would not be shocked if it's some sort of broken bone, whether it's ankle, lower shin, I don't know. We'll find out more in the coming hours and days, but that is a significant loss on the offensive line. So Coyote Awashika will presumably come in at left guard. I wonder if Miles Frazier, when he's healthy, is able to come off the pup. He might get a chance to start later in the year if Mahogany's absence is going to be a significant one. Wish the best for him. That was a bad-looking injury, and hopefully he's okay. So that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a Vikings fan watching this, congratulations. You completely deserve the win, and I hope you take the opportunity to dunk on all the Lions fans that were toxic to you online. But if you're going to do that, and if you want to say anything in the comments, please at least hit like and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it does help the channel grow. And you know what? If you're watching the video anyways, you might as well. And if you're a Lions fan, you might as well subscribe as well. Can you come hang out in the future? A very brutal game, and one that I'm going to remain frustrated about for a long time. Losing divisional games always sucks. The Lions have now dropped 2 divisional games this year, which is quite frankly unacceptable, especially considering how bad they looked in those 2 losses. The Lions have some soul searching to do ahead of a matchup against the Commanders next week, which obviously is significant because the Lions were eliminated by the Commanders last playoffs. So, yeah, man, gotta be better. Inexcusable coming out of the bye. We'll see where this goes, but again, thank you so much for watching. Be on the lookout for content coming out later in the week, and until next time, my friends, cheers.